Hello players, welcome to SV Poker intensive course. Today we will talk about some very important topics on preflop and postflop. So let's begin. Before we begin, please take a look at our plan. On the first week we will learn how to RFI, c-bet and cold call as well as 3-betting, and these things are very important for us to progress and go to our next level, which is basic. So on basic level you will be able to play ABI 10 plus, and you will progress to the ABI 20 in next 4 months. On the second week we will talk about check raises on big blind. On the third week it will be a small blind versus free positions. We will learn how to 3-bet, how to make cold calls and react in different stack sizes. And on the fourth week it will be big blind versus small blind battle. We will learn how to react on open raises on limps, how to 3-bet, how to cold call against them, and when to fold. So let's talk about distance. It is important to play at least 100 MTTs per week. If you play more, like much more, 200 tournaments or 150, please consider reducing the amount of tournaments to focus on quality. Try to play less tables. If you play 10 tables, try to play maybe 8 or 6 tables. So focus on quality, focus on learning. It is important for your progress. So this is the plan of our studying. You need to learn. You need to watch videos, you need to apply the materials in the game, develop, and don't forget about the distance. So 100 tournaments is very important. We will also have practices, group practices, and there will be other videos which you will have to watch starting from the second week. And it is also mandatory to send the reports by the end of the week so we can discuss your progress, take a look at your statistics, and give you an advice or two. Well, now let's progress to RFIs. Please do not reduce the frequency of your open raises even if your stack is close to 20 big blinds. So we follow the charts and we are aggressive on preflop before ICM starts, where we will be playing more accurate, more passive in some ways. But before the ICM, please be aggressive. It is very important for you to progress in the tournaments, to win the tournaments often. About open raises. So we have certain charts for open raises. This is the early position and middle position open raises charts. On the left, it is early position. We open raise up to 20 to 22% of our range. And we should not be too tight there because we do not get 3-bets often enough. That's why we can safely open raise these hands and be able to play postflop, since we have quite playable hands with good flush draws, good kickers, and ability to gather straight draws. On middle position, we open raise up to 25-26% of our range. We open a little bit more than on early position, and still we have to be careful with these hands which are marked as green and gray color. These hands you can open raise if you cover most of the players on the table. So for example, you see big blind has 12 big blinds, and you can safely open raise those weak suited kings, so you can potentially get a flush draw against big blind on postflop and try to stack him and get his knockout in progressive knockout tournaments. As for hijack and cutoff, we open raise even more because we are getting closer to big blinds, big blind and small blind, which we want to steal. We fight for these spots. So on hijack, it's 30% open raises, and on cutoff, it's up to 45-50% of our open raise range. On button, it is very wide, so we can have 60-70% open raise, and it is good because blinds do not 3-bet us as often as they should, and we can open raise that a lot and being able to win opponents even if they call. So on postflop, we will have a strategy. So let's take a look at cold calls and 3-bets. You should remember that the bigger your stack size, the bigger sizing you should use when you cold call or 3-bet. So if you have 70 big blind stack, you open you 3-bet up to 3.5x and to 4.5x 3-bet. So the bigger the stack, the bigger sizing of 3-bet you use. Let's see the strategy for big blind defense versus early position or middle position in stack sizes up to 100 big blinds. So we do not have a lot of 3-bet there, but still we have a lot of bluff 3-bet, which we can use against certain opponents. So you should remember about two main facts. If the opponent has high fold to 3-bet frequency, you can start 3-betting these hands colored in blue and green. And if you cover the opponent who open raises, you can 3-bet these hands and be fine with this situation. Try not to go all in with jacks, so they are not good against 4-bets as well as queens sometimes. So if you 3-bet jacks and see the jam or 4-bet, be careful and try to overfold there. With queens it is kind of the same. So if you see a 4-bet and if you know that opponent is quite tight, please mind that and fold queens, so it won't be a problem. But the problem will be if you go for 100 big blinds in all-in against very strong range, which consists only of aces, kings, and sometimes ace-king. The lower the stack, the different strategy we have. So when we have 35 to 50 big blinds, we try to 3-bet hands like Broadway, suited Broadway, but remember that we 3-bet these hands when we have stack size above 42 up to 50 big blinds. So these hands you can 3-bet and of course fold against the jam. Also, you can use 3-bets with King Jack, King 10, those weak aces. You can 3-bet and fold them in stacks like 35, 38 big blinds, and it is good hands to bluff because they have blockers and you will get more folds than usual. About the situation, which is quite often, big blind versus button cutoff, you'll face these situations way more often than against early position. So here you need to be active. You need to cold call a lot, you need to 3-bet a lot, like there. So you can 3-bet all these gap connectors, so you make hands like King 7 offsuited fold when you 3-bet 10-7, as well as sometimes you'll get folds from King 10 offsuited, and it is good. So you won't be dominated on postflop, so you will be likely called with hands, for example, King Jack suited, and in this scenario you will be fine. So if you hit top pair, like 7 for example, you can be sure that the opponent does not have a lot of 7s and you are fine with your top pair. And don't forget to 3-bet suited Broadway with aces and off-suited aces, strong aces as well as suited aces, weak aces, and kings. So these hands are good in those stacks. So the less stack we have, the strategy again change. We do not 3-bet suited aces. Like we are afraid of 4-bets. It will be a disaster if we get jammed when we 3-bet ace-5 suited, for example. We do not want this scenario. So our range switches to the weak of suited aces, kings, and sometimes jacks. So in these stack sizes, you will get more folds because the stacks are lower, people tend to fold more, and you can be safely 3-betting these hands, expecting a lot of folds. And if you get even a jam, okay, you can safely fold it and proceed to the next hand. When we are down to 24 to 35 big blinds, our strategy changes again. So there we can see jams. So we jam hands like small pairs, up to jacks. So jacks we do not jam, we 3-bet them, and we jam weak aces and strong aces of suited ones. Mind that. So we do not jam suited ones because we want an ability to play postflop. These hands are amazing on postflop, so we do not want to jam them. We rather jam weak ones, and we will have also value jams, value 3-bets with the upper part of our chart. So you can see that hands like ace-king suited, ace-10 suited, we just 3-bet with a sizing of 6 big blinds, 6.5 big blinds. We want to play postflop. We do not want to jam these hands. We are quite good with our hands on postflop, so we just 3-bet them. And as well, sometimes you can jam King 5, King 6 suited. These hands are good for jams. If the opponent likes to fold, you can safely jam these hands. And if you get called, for example, you jam King 6 and you get called by whatever ace jack, you still have a lot of equity against this hand, and sometimes you will be winning it. So do not be afraid to jam it. And take a look at the blue ones, King 5, for example, Queen Deuce. You can just 3-bet them 6.5 big blinds as a bluff. So there will be still a lot of folds, and if you even get a jam in your face, you can safely fold these hands and go to the next hand. About re-steals, so when you are down to 15 to 24 big blinds, you do not have 3-bets with certain sizings, you either jam or just call. So you can see that you call still a lot. You can realize your equity quite easy, getting a top pair probably will be enough for you to go all in on flop or something like that. And don't forget to jam a lot. So hands like the 9-8 suited still make hands like King 9 of suited fold, and it is good to jam these hands. They have good even they are good even in all in. So if you jam 9-8, you get called by ace 10, still you are not in the very bad situation at all. When you are to 8 or 15 big blinds, you still call a lot, as I said before, and you jam as well many hands, and you get a lot of folds in these scenarios, so don't be afraid to do it. Now let's talk a little bit about how we can cold call early position versus early position in stack sizes 25 plus big blinds. So you can see that this is not very wide range. We call suited hands, we call pairs, but don't forget that you should not call every pair like deuces and threes, fours, because sometimes you will get calls behind and you do not want to get set into set, which the opponent can have set stronger than yours, and it is always losing your stack. And quite often you will see cold calls from big blind, and you want to feel quite comfortable on low textures. So the higher pair you call, the better for you. Middle position and hijack versus early position. The cold call consists of pairs and suited Broadway. So these hands are very good playing in position. So you can play them quite fine being in position. And don't cold call the hands like ace queen, king queen, ace jack of suited. They are not very good on post flop, since you will probably be playing multi-way. You want to bluff 3-bet them and make the opponent fold his equity. And if you get jam, then, well, this is good as well, because, for example, if you 3-bet king queen offsuited and you get a jam from ace king, you won't get a domination. If you just cold call this king queen and hit a top pair, it can end very bad for you. The most often situation is button, so we will face open raises from early position, middle position, hijack. So this is the way how we play on button against those positions. You have a lot of cold calls, of course, and there are bluff 3-bets. So they consist of suited aces and these suited weak kings, king 8, king 7, some queens, and as well you can 3-bet those gappers or connectors. These hands are not being dominated, so you can safely play on lower boards. If you get called, you will be very comfortable on such textures, and it is amazing. And don't forget to 3-bet those hands of suited ones, ace queen, king queen, ace jack, king jack as well, and ace 10 of suited. You can 3-bet against the opponents who like to fold, or if you cover them. On cutoff, the situation is a little bit more tight than on the button. So, but still, you call a lot, you make 3-bets and so on. Don't forget to be active on these positions, because you are having position advantage, and you should realize it as good as you can. So by cold calling and 3-betting, you will do your best. The lower stacks, the more we play safer. So we are afraid of 3-bets. So we sometimes can call these hands like king 8, king 7, king 9, and we can 3-bet them if we cover our opponent, or he has a lot of folds on 3-bets. But don't forget to not to fold these hands. If you fold them, you lose a lot of equity. So it's either cold call or 3-bet, and this is it. As well as with those offsuited ones. So remember that these stacks are low, and you can get a lot of jams, so you do not want to 3-bet like very much, but still you should be active. On cutoff, the situation is a little bit tighter again, so we have a lot of cold calls as well, but our 3-bet range a little bit more tight. The most often situation is button against cutoff, so cutoff will like open once in 2 spots. You just need to be active on button, so you can see that there are a lot of 3-bets, so you still have option to 3-bet or cold call, but I advise you to 3-bet more, so opponents are out of position and we want to make them uncomfortable by 3-betting, make them fold their equity before they see the flop, and get their chips straight away. And smaller stacks, our range shifts to offsuited part, which we are not afraid to fold against a 4-bet jam, and suited part we mostly call. So we learned how to open raise, how to defend yourself on big blind and cold call as well, and 3-bet. Now let's talk about how to play when we are pre-flop aggressors. We made an open raise and get called. So the first situation is how to play out of position. So if you take a look on the screen, you can see that we open raised aces on cutoff, get a call from button, and now we need to decide how to play this hand. So we always see bet value, but there are two options with sizing. So if the flop is dangerous, like there is a flush draw or some straight draws or even worse, we try to bet a lot. So there are a lot of hands can call, and we want to get value and protect ourselves right now. If the texture is dry, for example, we have 6 of spades there, we can safely bet less, making our opponent to call more and gather our value on the next streets. A very important thing is how to play out of position with such hands which has not the best equity, right? So for example, king 5, we can bet this hand like 3 streets because it's not pure value. We can face kings higher than ours, and we do not want to value bet ourselves. But we want to get some bluffs from our opponent, so we go and check this hand to call our opponent bet on the flop and on the turn as well. The same goes with eights or pairs. Like second and third pair, we can just check call it, see our opponent's reaction on the turn. Sometimes we can continue against small sizing. Sometimes we can just fold eights if we face big sizing a bet on the turn. It is important to remember how to play these hands with check raise. So these hands are backdoors, most of them. So 6-5 has a gut shot and has backdoor flush draw. As well as 10-jack, it has just backdoor flush draw, but it can improve on the turn. The same is with 4-5, and 9-8 is a pure flush draw. So these hands, these type of hands, we just check raise 3 times bigger than our opponent initial bet, and we continue on the flop if we get our equity. For example, we check raise with 6-5, get a green card on the turn, and we continue. If we don't get a green card on the turn with 6-5, we just check fold this hand. That's all right. So we make a lot of folds on flop. When we check raise, many hands will just fold straight away. If we get our draw, we continue our barreling, and some hands will fold on the turn. And as well, we can get our flush on the river and value bet our opponent. If we do not get the flush on the river or straight, we just check fold it safely, and this is all right. So we played our hand in the best possible way. As well as betting with value, we can bet as a bluff. So take a look at these hands, and these flops, I'm sorry. There are a lot of dry boards, like with high card and some low cards, and these textures are very hard to continue for our opponent. So if we bet a lot, like 70%, opponent needs to have at least a hit. So he needs to have a top pair or second pair or something like that, and so on. Take a look at the texture like 8-8-5, 6-5-4. These textures are very good to big sizing c-bet out of position, because our opponents usually have like overcards, like for example king queen, queen jack, and so on, and they will be facing a difficult situation to call the big sizing there because they do not have a hit, don't have a direct flush draw or a gut shot, so they mostly fold. So that's how we exploit it. And please, if you get called on such textures after betting with 4 pure bluff, mind folding, check folding on the turn. So we did our best on the flop, and we should know when to give up, and so on. About barreling in position, so if you take a look at this situation, we always need to barrel the flop. Like it's our main strategy for now. We need to bet the flop so to continue on the turn. If you get check raised, that's all right, no problem. You take a look at your hand. For example, with queen jack, we get check raised. Okay, we got unlucky, we folded. But remember that there we can make king 5 of suited fold, for example, right away on the flop, and this is amazing. So we still get folds with our 1/3, and we will continue on the turn. So what we continue on the turn? Value, of course, we do not slow play anything in position. We just bet for value, even if we have set. We do not make traps and this type of things. We just continue and barrel, getting our value. So this is the best situation to get chips. How to bluff on the turn? If you get a high card on the turn, like 10 plus, you should continue barreling. If you get a draw on the turn, a gut shot, it is great to barrel. So you can see that opponents still have hands to fold, and you can improve by the river and make a value bet on the river as well. Textures with aces are amazing for barreling. So if you have an ace on the flop, you can barrel the flop and the turn. And if you get ace on the turn, you can barrel. So you barrel the flop always, you barrel the turn and barrel the river, make opponent fold, for example, 9. And don't forget that you can bluff 3 streets with ace from the flop. So for example there, ace 5, 7, 5, 8, ace 8, 7, 5 deuce texture. So opponent can call us on the flop with 8, 9, for example, call us on the turn with his 8, 9 gut shot and hit, right? But he will fold it on the river. So you make fold hands which has hit plus draw. So So don't forget about these types of hands. So you can place third barrel and be fine with it and get your folds on the river as well. So don't think that opponents always have an ace, just mind the texture you see. The next thing that we need to keep in mind that there are hands which we do not want to see bet on the turn. So these hands are medium value hands, so we do not bet them on the turn. So we are planning to check them and call them on the river. So if you take a look at 9-6, for example, on the turn we can bet it, but what do we get? So we never make 9 better than ours fold. We never get 10 to fold. So basically we will be value betting ourselves most of the times. And try to imagine the hands which can call the flop. For example, king deuce of hearts can call the flop, having backdoors, and on the turn he will fold this king deuce. But if we check 9-6 on the turn and for example there is 3 on the river, he will bluff his king deuce because he has to bluff it. He won't win the showdown probably, and we will be able to call this 9-6 and get our chips easily. The same goes with 7-4, so do not bet medium valued hands, just check them behind and get to call the pro bet on the river. Sometimes ace or king high hands can be good to check the turn, try to catch bluffs on the river, so do not turn ace or king high into bluffs. Always think about that there are still hands which can bluff the river and we can try to bluff catch these hands. So remember, second or third pair, ace high, we try to check behind the turn. Do not skip value bets on the river. So if you have value bet, you must do value bet. Don't think in terms that if you value bet the river and you get the jam, you can be bluffed out of the hand. No, it happens incredibly rare. So when people check raise as a bluff on the river, so you can safely value bet the river, and if you see the raise, okay, fold it. Never try to check it out, like you will get upset in the end. You bet value or bluff with a large sizing, 70-80%, and don't be afraid to turn into bluff some gut shots, straight draws, flush draws, and against regulars. But there are textures where you probably won't get enough folds, like here, queen 10 deuce, 5-6. There are 2 draws. There can be hands which can barrel there like king jack, ace king, all flush draws, so we can get bluff catched quite often. That's why we try to avoid bluffing there. But I will tell you about this but a little bit later on. Let's take a look how we can play the rivers. For example, 6-7, always bet flop, you remember. On the turn we get a gut shot, we bet it again, and on the river king of diamonds comes. Here you can see that in eyes of our opponent we can have ace jack straight, king jack, ace king, a lot of kings like king 9 for example. So many hands turn into monsters on the river. Don't forget that there is flush on the river, so we could have a flush, and if we bet there with sizing up to 100% of the pot, we can make even queen fold and get this pot. So always think about how does river looks in the eyes of our opponent. So when there is a high card on the turn, remember we always barrel the turn and we always barrel the river, making 10 or 8 fold. So remember about the draws. So there will be situations when the opponent calls us on the turn having a hit plus draw. For example, king 5 in clubs, 10-8, 9-8, 9-7, 5-6, 5-7, and so on. A lot of hands will call us on the turn, but they won't be able to call big sizing on the river. They will fold it because they didn't get their draw, they didn't hit it. So don't miss these bets. Try to finish your bluff on the river. So do you remember the situation when there are 2 draws on the turn and opponents like to call? So imagine our opponent has an ace. He would never fold an ace. Like no matter how big we bet, people do not like to fold aces. They will think about that we have a bluff. So you can bet incredibly large, like 100% on the turn, 120% on the turn. Aces will fold very rare. So we target an ace here and we should get as much value as we can. So ace jack, ace queen, ace king, sets of 3s, 10-3, 2 pairs stuff. We can bet very large, just getting value from an ace. So these are the sizings. Flop we bet 33%, turn we go 70%, and the river can be 80%. You can make these sizings a little bit bigger, but not smaller than these. In multi-way pots, we play kinda conservative, so we bet flop with good value, but remember that if you get a raise, in multi-way, you should trust it. You should never think that it is always a draw and so on. Remember that against a draw, flush draw plus, for example, gut shot with your top pair, top kicker, you have flip. But if you add there the fact that there can be two pairs type of hands, there can be sets and so on, you will have very small equity against this range. So don't be afraid of overfolding the top pair plus top kicker. And try not to bluff in multi-way pots because there are a lot of people and they can have the hands. So avoid bluffing. Top pairs with medium kickers, we can check call. If we see that there was a bet and then many calls, try to call with the backdoor. So if you can have a good backdoor flush draw, for example, not backdoor flush draw, you can call this to see the turn and make a decision on the turn. Flush draws and straight draws, do not check raise it, just call it, see the turn. If you get big sizing on the turn as a c-bet, please don't mind folding, like easily fold it and let it be. If opponent checks behind the turn, you can try to turn your hand into a bluff, bet big sizing on the river. Don't bet, we do not use, you will have videos on check raises, so if you have a draw, you can start check raising on the flop. Do not start cold calling flush draws, straight draws, and then try to bluff out the river or donk for value. Just make a check raise, it is better in terms of EV. So these are statistics you should have by the end of the course. So these are RFIs. So we should have such statistics of our open raises, cold calls plus 3 bets. So this is the sum of cold call and 3 bet. We should have these statistics. This is about post flop. So our c-bet on the flop should be 85 to up to 100%. We never miss it. We bet turn 60 to 70%. We check behind medium equity and we try to bet the river, try to bluff it, not forget to value bet the rivers and so on. Our cold call on BB should be active, 55 to 60%, and we should have an active 3-bet. And don't forget about c-betting out of position. There is a certain strategy, and we should stick to it. So thank you for listening, and see you on the next training sessions. Goodbye.